Hi, well, I'm Christina Benton. I am the CEO and Principal Archaeologist for CHRIS, Cultural Heritage Resource Impact Solutions. And I was actually came across this site through another resource through my day job, and at that I was asked to do to determine if there was any historical significance. And in the research of that, I just kind of fell in love with this site that no one had heard of, and I met Mr. Pepper. And then through Mr. Pepper, I met Emily and Suzanne and learned about the history of this amazing site, and asked them if I could participate by conducting some archaeological analysis on the one known structure that still exists out here.
Yes. And you're from Knoxville.
I'm born and raised in Knoxville, but headquartered in Charlotte, live in Charlotte.
Right, but as far as the mountainous terrain, being familiar with Appalachia and that region is something that obviously is innate for you.
Absolutely.
Being that you're from the area.
Not too far away.
Not too far. And Emily.
Yes, hi.
Right, you don't mind introducing yourself and giving us your spiel.
Yeah. I'm Emily Cadmus. I'm a public historian. I'm based in Asheville, and I primarily do research in Western North Carolina about emancipation and Reconstruction and into the early 20th century in that area. And I have known Rodney Pepper since I was in grad school because of a project I worked on at that time. And after I finished grad school, we stayed in contact, and he asked me to help him exhibit the research that he and Suzanne Hale had done about this site, the Kingdom of the Happy Land. During Reconstruction in the 1870s, a group of formerly enslaved people traveled here from Spartanburg County, South Carolina, and established a community where they pooled their resources. We know that they had collective funds that they, like a community chest that they contributed to, and they eventually purchased a little over 200 acres, and we are on that land right now. And right now the archaeological dig that Christine is helping us with, or is leading us on, is a remnant of a structure that was here from that time period, and it's a former chimney.
I also have Christina's son here. If you don't mind, son, if you don't mind moving over here by mom so we can get it on the mic, and give us your name, and because I only have 2 mics, y'all, but give us your name and how long have you been interested in this type of work that your mom is doing?
All right, my name is Nathaniel Brooks, and I've been interested in this work since I was around like 10 when I see my mom doing this type of work for a pretty long time. So I've been just trying to see what she does. That's why I come out here and help her with the work, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting job she does.
Thank you.
Dope.
I don't know exactly the lines of the property. It was originally a little over 200 acres, and part of which was in South Carolina and most of which was in North Carolina. So it straddled the state line. And there are 2 people from the kingdom that were named as property owners on the deed, Luella Montgomery and Robert Montgomery. And they were sister and brother-in-law. And so collectively they owned. The community legend is that they were somehow used the state line as like a way to like evade authority or something like that, but I don't really see any evidence in the historical record that there was any reason why they needed to evade authority, and it doesn't make any sense, you know, just as people living on the land, that you would use the state line that way.
Right.
So
but how did it get its name?
Well, I assume it's what they called themselves. So in 1873, when they first came up here from Spartanburg County, South Carolina, there was a variety of newspaper articles about this like group of Zion Mountain travelers, this group of like emancipated people who were traveling the Buncombe Road, which is what the Buncombe Turnpike was called at that time, to go find their quote-unquote promised land. And it accused them a lot of different kinds of activities, criminal activities, cannibalism, like a lot of really...
Cannibalism?
Yeah. Basically, the media provided an outlet at that time to kind of... for people to funnel their fears about emancipation.
Sure.
And people in the North, in the South, and even across the world had a lot of speculations about the humanity of the formerly enslaved, which, as we know now, is not really a concern. You know, they're all people, but there people were afraid of that, and there were a lot of like rumors and speculation about the intentions and the motivations of formerly enslaved people at that time.
Absolutely.
So we
Have
know
you seen it in newspapers all across the globe?
Yeah, and so
Negative propaganda.
basically that's what it is, and a lot of it is just the same article that's reprinted across multiple papers. So they were called by the newspapers Zion Mountain Travelers. I don't know if that's what they called themselves, but I've always heard this community referred to as the Kingdom of the Happy Land, and there's like evidence. Like in road names that like there's a road around here called Kingdom Place and different things like that where you know these kind of these vestiges of these kind of cultural legacies live on like in our daily infrastructure like road names, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they called themselves, or at least accepted to be called that. One of the two.
All right, cool. So now we're up here with Chris, and what do we have going on, and what are some of the things that you have already found? If you all don't mind.
Yeah, I have Nate go run and grab the.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah, you can bring that up here. So this is what we're thinking is a chimney structure. We've found a lot of coal and burnt wood. Now you can bring that bag too. When you can bring that to suggest that something was burned in this area, and just so we're thinking it's just a dry stacked stone chimney.
Oh, wow.
This is our unit 1. We're still working on it. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Take a picture there, and I'm actually in the way so you can get a good overview. But there's a large stone that I'm sitting on that we're not sure just yet if it was part of the collapse or if this was part of the subfloor. So we're exploring that to see what we can find. We found a lot of metal, a whole bag full. Here's a sample of what we found. Some hand cut nails.
Mm-hmm.
We have some machine cut nails, which it just helps us with dating.
Mm-hmm.
We found a bottle cap, and we found out in that short amount of time that the crown press cap was established in 1892. So it situates nice with. Thank you. It situates nice with the time period for this group.
Mm-hmm.
We found some buttons. These small porcelain buttons might suggest children's wear.
Yeah.
Metal, possibly military buttons, a button cover. It looks like it has an emblem on it, so it's either a work, a uniform button cover.
This one right here.
Mm-hmm. Or a military. We have some unidentified pieces. But it just shows us that human life existed here. I'm thinking this doesn't tell us, there's nothing in here that shows domestic necessarily,
Okay.
but also it could be. So we just don't quite have enough to say domestic. We just know human activity for the most part. Okay. So that's what we're focusing on. We have a small piece of ceramic. I haven't identified it. So it could be from a plate, it could be from something domestic or not. So we still have a little bit more to go. So we have bullet casings, a lot of metal and buttons. So right now it's looking like, not necessarily domestic, but like I don't know yet. I don't want to put on camera my thoughts just yet.
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
So from a cultural perspective, thinking of the African American culture, Afro-Indigenous culture, etc., is there anything out here that points to that, to where you can say that I found items that points to culture?
I wouldn't argue that just yet.
Okay.
Not just yet. I'm going to piece it together with Emily to get a better history for that particular group. But right now, this just shows human activity.
Okay.
If we find out more about that button that might be a factory uniform button or military uniform button, we might be able to tie it to a workplace or specific life history of somebody who lived here at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
So some cool stuff, but nothing definitive
As of yet.
just yet.
How far do you plan on digging?
Not too far. So we have a 7 by 5 meter grid. This yellow string is our grid unit. So we're not going to go outside of that. And we're gonna do a shovel test pit up here, and then what we think is the outside. So the outside
Will be
of the
facing
structure.
this way?
Yep. So we're gonna do a shovel test pit on that side.
Okay.
And we're actually about to do that like now.
Okay,
and,
cool.
And
So people will be able to check that out.
yeah.
All right.
So Nay, did you get the photographs? You photographed? Okay, so you can move the center rock and make your shovel test pit right there.
And these are just like,
Oh yeah, this is the burnt wood and coal pieces, and we have bags and bags of this. So this is what suggests that this was a burn area.
okay.
But all of this came out of this unit with this.
All right, so when I pulled up, I saw that this wasn't like a grape orchard.
Yes, it's a grape orchard. It's
Right.
cultivating grapes right now.
And so what we're doing is we're going down the hill from the site where they're doing the dig, and we'll go to where it was a working field, where I reckon that they were growing crops and everything else for sustainability here at Happy Land. And so can you tell us like what the landscape would have been in the early, during Reconstruction, and how they came to get 180 plus acres of land?
So when they left South Carolina for the mountains, they walked up a road called the Buncombe Turnpike, which has been around since the early 1800s, and today it exists. Parts of it are trails, parts of it are roadways. So it still kind of exists, but not as like a contiguous road anymore. But it was used by livestock drovers to bring their animals to slaughter, to market.
Okay.
And many of those drovers were enslavers, and they would bring people that they enslaved with them on the road. And enslaved people also built and maintained the road, which needed a lot of maintenance because it was in the mountains, would get washed out and stuff.
Right.
And there were also stock stands and inns all along the road to accommodate the travelers that were primarily staffed by enslaved people. And so in this, from an enslaved person's perspective, that road is kind of a locus of Black culture where a lot of different people who were enslaved at different locations got to interact and come across each other.
Okay.
And so I think it was pretty vital for just kind of in the cultural lexicon of people when they were emancipated, as a resource of a place that they knew they could go and maybe see other emancipated people or encounter places they had been before. Anyway, so they went at the Buncombe Turnpike and they found they either they knew before or maybe they met Sarepta Davis at that time, and she was an elderly widow. But when she was younger and her husband was alive, they ran one of the inns along the Buncombe Turnpike.
Okay.
Called the Oakland Inn.
So was that are the Davises a pretty prominent family in the area already, or?
I mean, they're not as prominent as, say, like the Pattons or
Right.
things like that. I don't know, for example, of any Indian repositories that have like their family manuscripts or anything like that. But there are, historic postcards with like pictures of the Oakland Inn, and there's newspaper advertisements and articles that reference them. But the building is not there anymore. Anyway, what likely happened is that when the Zion Mountain Travelers, or the founders of the Kingdom of the Happy Land, however you want to refer to them, encountered Sarepta Davis, her land was in disrepair, and they and she was a former enslaver and had slave housing on her property. And the community lore and seems likely is that they worked for her for some money and a place to live for a while until they saved up enough to buy land.
Okay.
And when they bought land, it was from her son-in-law. A lot of the rumors that they bought it from her, but they didn't.
Okay.
I think she was deceased at the time. But they bought it from her son-in-law, and most of it was in North Carolina, and part of it was in South Carolina. And I think where we are now, this vineyard farm is the largest contiguous piece of it left.
This right here. So this would have initially been wooded though, and then they cleared it out.
It might have been cleared beforehand. I don't really know how to answer that question without like maybe disrupting the vineyard and finding out more. But it's privately owned now, and it goes further back in that way, and you can actually, from that side, there is a road called Kingdom Place that you can get here probably by foot on.
Okay.
But yeah, this is what it's been said is their main cultivated space. And like I said before, they probably had smaller kitchen gardens closer to wherever they were living near water. But it would be beneficial to have a big space like this to plant commodity crops like corn or sorghum or fodder for their pigs or whatever, things that they would grow like mass quantities of.
How many people would have lived in this community? Did they send word out to other folks that, hey, we have this space, why don't you all come up? Because we know that word travels and those migration patterns are very important. And maybe we'll head back up since they're mowing. But I just wanted to show you all this orchard so you could see just how vast the land is. And it's really beautiful up here as well. So
okay, so the initial accounts in the newspaper articles that said so many salacious things, what is beautiful about those articles, even though they're like pretty nasty in nature, they do have these kind of nuggets that are truth, because whoever is authoring them doesn't think of they're as important or something, and so it's kind of casually mentioned, more than the main focus of the article. So there were a couple articles that speculated about 50 original travelers came up, and that would have been, there's records of people as old as like maybe their mid-60s and young children and people in between and family units and adult children with their elderly parents and a variety of ages of people. There is also some evidence that they encountered people as they got closer to this area that joined them, like in Greenville area.
Other
like
formerly enslaved
Yeah.
humans that were seeking refuge and just to live peacefully.
Yeah. It's interesting because another research project I'm working on in this area is having to do with an African American community that existed in Saluda in the early 20th century. And that area did not have a lot of slavery or people in general.
In Saluda?
In Saluda.
Yeah, and Saluda's in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's really close to here.
Yeah.
And so there's some speculation of like, okay, like the train came, there's a population boom, and we know that many of the black people that were there were doing domestic labor.
Yeah.
But like, why there? Where did they come from? It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So there's like some speculation that there's some maybe intergenerational connection between kingdom founders and people in Saluda, and we found like maybe some clues, and I'm in the process of doing more research about that. I can tell you more definitive things about where they came from and why we think they might have come here, if you want to know that. So Cross Anchor in Spartanburg County, South Carolina, before emancipation was very rural, but rural in a different kind of way than here. It was all plantation land and a lot of enslaved people, and just demographically a lot more Black people, people of color than there were here. And we know that in 1871 there was a congressional hearing to investigate Klan violence in the South, which had, at that time, the Klan was a new organization that had organized primarily to suppress the Black vote after emancipation. And so there's a big document called An Investigation into the Late Insurrectionary States, or something, legal like that. And it's a very big document. It's not just South Carolina, it's a lot of states. And
I have the one for Georgia as well as Tennessee.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
It's also on the Internet Archive.
Yeah, and these are the one. This is where people are giving the testimony, correct, of
Yes.
the terror that they had to experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very gruesome things, you
Yes.
all. You can't. One time I tried to read that. I read some of those things before I went to bed and literally had a nightmare.
Oh my God.
Because you seen them? They're terrible.
Yeah, no, I've read
the things
them.
that happen.
I mean, I haven't read the whole thing because it's huge,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's, I mean, I encounter a lot of terrible, sad, tragic, traumatizing things, and
Yeah.
there are things I research, and I cry a lot.
Yeah.
But one of the founders, Martin Bobo, who was Llewellyn Montgomery's father, who was also named in those newspaper articles as the kind of spiritual leader of the group, was named as someone who was targeted by the Klan and beaten by them in that document. And also Cross Anchor is named as a place where lynchings were happening. And so we know that it was violent and difficult, and there would be a lot of reason to not want to be in that environment.
Yeah.
So
this would literally be a happy place for them, away from just
and
all
so,
of the craziness.
And while they probably face a whole different genre of challenges, being this anomaly of a community of freed people in an area that did not have much people in general, or slavery, or plantations, it was not. They weren't living under terror.
Yeah. They got a small break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nathaniel, let us know what you're doing over here.
So I'm doing a shovel test, and it's where I dig down, and then I have to like make the sides look even, like a regular square. Make sure it's all even over here, and then we're gonna use this dirt, and we're gonna see what's inside of it. Like we're gonna bring it over here.
Is it you kind of like sift it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're gonna sift this dirt.
So to the average eye, somebody would be like, "Oh, that's just dirt, right?" But you know that it means way more than that, because you can find some
You can
some
find
jewels in there, right?
A lot of stuff in here, yes, sir. Then we just dig around in here, like there's burnt wood or coal.
Yeah, I see that.
A lot of roots in here. You can just throw those out.
You see this kid? He's getting his hands dirty.
And then just a
Gotta love it.
tree. Then you can look at these rocks. They ain't really have no value. And then if you don't find anything in here, you just keep going with the dirt.
Is there a certain depth that you're trying to get to, or does it, or do you stop at a, like from a depth level? How far is it ideal to go?
How far am I, like?
Just the depth of the shovel, about
Yeah.
30 to 50 centimeters.
Okay, Mom said 30 to 50 centimeters. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's nothing in here, so you just do that and you repeat the process.
Same process.
Yes, sir. Over.
Has there been a site for you, Nathaniel, that's been like your favorite, that you found the most stuff or
So
a certain
far,
item?
I would say here.
Really?
Yes, sir. Because we found a lot of stuff. We found bullets, bullet casings. We found nails. We found buttons. We found a lot. We found glass. We found a lot.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And then we see. So we got to dig down a
Okay,
little
so
bit
you got to
more.
go. So your goal is to go to at least right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is this a goal to do this all in one day's time, or is it just overtime? And will you be making more of these
Yes, sir.
all along here?
Yeah, we're going. It's only a couple. We do like two, maybe like here, and we might do one like back there.
Okay.
Where there's a where there's a hole right here. It's just a big indent. So
Okay.
we're gonna do a shovel test over here too.
How important is it for you to have your son out here right now, and also for future generations to be able to see this type of work being done by a kid?
Yeah, it's an honor just for him to be with me, just that as a parent whose kid wants to hang out with them. So I'm thrilled about that. But yeah, but he's a hard worker, and I love that he's just gaining a new skill set. And him going to work with me, essentially, I get to expose him to to different avenues. He might not become an archaeologist, but he'll have a skill set to take with him through life, just from experience and the outdoors with me.
Yeah.
So, very valuable. Wish more kids could have the opportunity to get out here. Very, very valuable. No cell service, so kind of get his full
See, as you all
attention and
see,
let
we're
him
out
be
here.
exposed
You don't
to
see
the
any lines out here, y'all. So
yeah, yeah. So it's an honor. I previously homeschooled, so I'm very used to to having my kids with me, and so I'm very lucky that he still participates in these types of experiences.
for sure. So for you, what are some of the things that piques your curiosity at this site right now?
Yeah. Well, where I'm at is I'm really interested in just because the different layers. Friday we were out here and we've already done some work, and the first couple of layers were really rich with the material that we've been finding, and now I'm kind of down to the bottom, and I'm just finding these strange rock layouts, and I'm just trying to figure out, is this the floor, or was this intentionally placed? So it's all a mystery. It's all a mystery, a big, fun, dirty mystery. So, but I think I'm pretty close to the bottom, and so I'm just gonna try to clean this up and get some photos.
So when we talk about the story within itself, how much of that is what's captivating to you when you choose what sites you want to go dig at?
Absolutely, the story is what captivated me. Like I told you earlier, this story kind of fell across my desk at work, and I was enthralled by it. Like, what in the world? I've never heard of this. And I pride myself on being a historian, the archaeologist, through the Southeast, and had never heard of it. And so I was very excited that Miss Suzanne and Mr. Pepper were open and welcome and allowed me to explore more. But it was just the history of the African diaspora, and that's my research specialty. So any kind of experiences along that line, and so this story of former enslaved people, walking out of an area of torment, and settling their own kingdom. How many kingdoms are in the United States?
Right.
And so the fact that we're standing on a kingdom, a former kingdom, it's fascinating.
The name alone kind of
Yes.
it kind of gets you going, right?
Absolutely.
You just mentioned something. You said you don't leave any dirt at all, right? You said you want to capture everything, which is why you have the pans and everything. And can you tell me some of the early mistakes that you may have made during your career? And how did you learn? And what did you learn from those mistakes?
Early on, a lot of, well, as a student, a lot of digging, which I try to prevent him from doing. It's exciting to get that shovel and, just go at it. It's just treasure hunting, it feels like.
Yeah.
But there's actually a method. And in archaeology, there's a thin line between us being pot hunters and being scientists. And that thin line is stratigraphy and layer by layer. So we have to do it systemically. And so I have to collect dirt systemically out of a hole, layer by layer, analyze what we find in each layer. Even the layers tell me something that not in this particular pit, but in a regular hole. The stratigraphy would tell me, time and what was going on in certain periods.
Okay.
And so it's really important to just do it systemically, just so you won't miss any detail.
All right, so we just finished with the dig for today. It looks like there was a lot of good progress that was made. This is the site without people there, as you see. Chimney and the markers on all four corners to where they will continue digging. But my question, Emily, I guess we can do this while we're walking down, is what happened with the individuals that were living here?
So, we have a record of the last individual that lived here. His name is Jerry Casey, and he died in 1916, I believe. And according to that book that was published in 1957, he was cared for until his death here on this land by his cousin Elmira Montgomery, who was a descendant of Robert Montgomery, I believe. And she, at that time, was living in Hendersonville, and a lot of that second generation of children that lived here or grew up here ended up moving into more populated centers like Hendersonville.
Okay.
That time period around the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, was a big development time period in Western North Carolina in general because of the railroad coming in and facilitating a lot of just economic growth and urban development in general.
Right.
And so there's a lot of reason to leave this area to go work in the various industries that were around.
I feel like every time we walk right here, this wind picks up. Did you not notice that the first time we walked down here? Heading out? I didn't mean to interrupt, but I felt like the same time, like, oh man, my audio is going to be windy. So
maybe it's the spirit of Jerry Casey.
To us? Like, yeah.
They're like, don't
leave.
Don't.
Well, how do people find information on this project, and as well as your work as well?
Well, I have a website, emilycadmus.com. I also built a website with Ronnie and Suzanne based on the research they uncovered and also some of the research I've done, and put together a narrative about the kingdom based upon these primary source documents as opposed to relying on that pamphlet from 1957.
Yeah.
And it has a really clunky handle.
Yeah.
It's housed at the Blue Ridge Community College on their server. And so it's like blueridgearchive.org / the Kingdom of the Happy Land.
And any last thoughts for today? You can hold it in your hand.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thrilled to be out here. We're hot and tired and dirty, but it's well worth it. Thank you to the landowners, the Paynes, for allowing us out here. Thank you to Emily and Suzanne, filled with so much knowledge, and just they help fill in the whole, it makes sense, the context of what we're seeing up there. Going home gratified as always with my hands dirty and sweaty.
That's typically how it is, right?
And now the fun part, which is assessing everything.
Yeah.
And I'll be in touch with everyone as new developments, come along, and we'll coordinate and plan the next trip out here. You can find me. I have a website, www.chris3inc.com, chris3inc.com, and that's my CRM firm. So
nice.
If you want any holes dug in your yard and any ancestral lineage explored, give me a shout.
Listen, this is another episode. I greatly appreciate you all for tuning in. I'll leave some of their links in the description of this episode. So again, like I always say, if you like this type of content, please subscribe and share with a friend. Peace.